expenditure in excess of the amount that the administration is authorized to spend without authority. So I'd like to move that up to item D under action items. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda that you have before you?
There are none.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda with that one change? Schmitz moves to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Awesome. Nagel seconds. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. I'd like to recognize the visitors here in the room. We have Mr. Beta and Mrs. Sell from our school. Also Mr. Rude, Mr. Brockman, Mr. Spellerberg from here at the Career Tech Center. And we have Nick Freet. Who do we have with us on Zoom, April?
We have Brennan Hack, Kathy Warren, and Vicki Kelly.
All right, very good. Welcome everyone, and thank you for being with us today. In your packet, there was one item of public communication. A thank you from Kelly Gebhardt for the apparel that she received and all staff received as a Christmas gift and an appreciation gift. So no other public communications. Then it's time to move on to the Southeast Region Career Tech Center presentation. We're meeting here at the Tech Center today because in honor of Career Technical Education Month, and I've been doing this for a few years and I like doing it. So we'll turn the program over to Mr. Brockman and Mr. Rude. Thank you.
Mr. Brockman has some material to go over. There's a couple of things I'd just like to touch base on, kind of a 10,000 foot view from what's been going on. The year goes by pretty fast, and we welcome you to the center here, your building, your center, and happy Career Tech. Just a big picture financially, the center is in a good place right now. Our cash reserves are about 28% of our operating budget, which is just under $4 million. So we're in a good place there. We had a setback with our insurance agent in Wellington, and she left us. Went to work with Abby at Heritage, and she went on to another job. The good news is we're working with Bill and Katie here in Oak, so it was a seamless, obviously, transition, and it's worked out well for us. Student enrollment this year, we're serving 1,623 students at Oaks, Wahpeton, in the area. And I remember years back when Mr. Steinhap had a chart on his wall, and it was quite a bit shorter number than 1,600 students, but our goal is to serve as many kids as we can in our programs and try to help them expand their high school career. We have some exciting things happening with some partnerships here in Oaks with Harris Machine, they carry us with CNC machining, and Wahpeton with Comdale with some FATIC robotics activities. Our goal is really to take our ag programs in the manufacturing welding arena and bring that level of advanced manufacturing experience for our kids to a higher level with places like Comdale, Bobcat, Harris Machine, etc. Get some exposure for kids. We just got some new water jet cutters, came in yesterday. So really to kind of bring that level quite a bit higher than it has been traditionally. And back in my day, they called it shop class, and this is a whole different game and a whole different level. We have some youth in our staff now. We actually have 4 staff members expecting babies this year, which is great in the school business. We've got 2 that are getting married this year. So we've had some turnover in the last 5 years and have a fair number of younger teachers. We also have, I can say this in all sincerity, the strongest staff at the Career Tech Center in our programs that we've had in my entire 30+ year career. We really have people that are getting after it. They've written grants this year that exceed $250,000 on their own. They're generating some outside cash to enhance their programs. Just a lot of cool things. We finished our Ag Innovation Center in Wahpeton this fall. We're serving 250 kids a day just in that program alone with that new facility. So I'm trying to across the waterfront, new greenhouse in winter. That's just about 90% complete. So some fun stuff going on. The the staff here is doing a great job for your kids. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. And last spring was, I think, kind of a wake-up call for me as an administrator. I think for some teachers, distance learning for career tech ed is not a good fit. We had kids that did okay with it. We had some kids that I saw had straight A's struggling because of the lack of the hands-on component and not being engaged actively with their teachers. And I saw teachers struggle with it. That, you know, if you're the auto teacher or the construction teacher, that is not your deal to be teaching over a computer. You want to get in there with the kids. And this fall has brought us some, I think, some renewed energy, excitement, and we've had very minimal number of staff members out. We've had a half a dozen or so that had COVID, but we've overcome that. I got to substitute teach for a week in carpentry, and kids were really glad when their regular teacher came back. I'm from the old school, so you know they get a dose of that too, and that's okay. But I just want to say thanks for working with the Oaks board. It's been a number of years since we worked together between Wapaton and Oaks, and I think both sides of the shop are as strong as they've ever been, and got a lot of good things happening. Great staff and great students, and our relationship with the state office. I have to be honest, you know, Wayne Kootzer being an Oaks boy, you know, our relationship with the state office was fabulous. And I was a little, you know, I was gun shy. How's it going to go when you got a new sheriff in town? And Sonia and the board did it. Wade's been awesome, and I think we've been awesome to the state board in terms of they see that we're getting after it out here, and he's been equally supportive, and we've got some grant money and some things, and that relationship hasn't missed a beat. So I appreciate that, because you never know. I mean, his background was not career tech ed, and he didn't know a lot about Southeast North Dakota and what we do here, but I think now I know that that's a really, really good relationship, and I appreciate that. So across the waterfront, you know, it's never perfect, but I think it's pretty damn good right now. I feel really good about it and our programs, what we're doing for our kids. And so thanks for allowing me to work for you and the other boards. Just another year goes by, and what a good year. So if you have any questions, you know, just always direct them to Sheila, and she can hit me now or whatever. And one last thing, we talked about innovation. We bought a different car for the sale. We have two cars that got 150,000 miles on a 4-cylinder. That's getting close to the end of life. So we bought a hybrid. I thought we're a technology center. We should try something new. I'm not a Ford guy, but it's a Ford hybrid, and it bothers me when I push on and you don't hear anything except the radio, you know, because it's electric. But it's been great, and I drove it to Allendale last night and back this morning, and so I'm learning some new technology too. But for staff that are out there, we should probably emulate things. Our auto teacher at Wapaton in science actually made a recommendation. He said we have 3 different cars. He said, that's what I would buy. Just said, okay, we'll try it. You know, and, so thanks, Bill, for ensuring that. So if I smash up, hit a deer or something like that.
You tell me you got a pretty good deal.
Well, I like to negotiate on cars. And I have a little thing with Brock, but if he can try to get a deal, I'll do that. So it was $30,650 car, and we bought it for $18,900 brand new. So yeah, we did some negotiating. So, but try, you know, when you're from the old school, you pinch every penny. If you're a conservative Republican from the olden days, you squeeze every, you know, but the state's good to us on mileage reimbursements. So it's a nice car, so we're trying to emulate using some newer technology and whatnot. But anyway, thanks for the opportunity to work for you and your kids, and great things happening here in Oaks. If you get a chance, walk through Mr. Spellenberg's shop. He's got some manufacturing projects going on that are amazing, strictly, truly amazing. So there's some cool stuff. So thank you, and I'll let Mr. Brockman do the important stuff here. So.
So Craig, I can keep it under an hour. He told me I got 15 minutes, so. I took my mask off. I'll stay further than 6 feet apart. I took my mask off so you can hear me a little better. I basically just have general information and stuff in here for you guys. First couple pages are the teachers and what area they're in and programs. That next page is all of the programs that we're offering, all the classes. The third page is the assessment. Those are the numbers that were for this current school year. And we kept it overall at just under 1%, 0.99 overall for all schools. It varies between school to school. Folks was pretty good at 1.04%. So I know Mr. Rood and I plan to keep it very similar numbers again this year, try to shoot for that 1% increase. So, and you can plan accordingly for that. The next page is the grants. Mr. Rood already touched on that a little bit, but here's a list of the teachers and the grants that they received. 228,000 and change here, so awesome that they take time and do that. Mr. Spellerberg, he's kind of top of the list when it comes to grants. And if you look at Brianna Briegel, her name's on there quite a bit. She's student taught under Mr. Spellerberg. And if you look at Anna Kemmer, her name's on there. She's student taught under Mr. Spellerberg. So might be a little bit of a pattern there. So maybe Mr. Spellerberg does a good job at passing that on. So appreciate that. Thank you. Next page is scholarship data. That breaks down all of the schools that are at the center. Folks this year had a pretty good jump. They basically doubled from 2019. So good job, Brandon and Mrs. Brecker on that. So the SRC percentage, so all the schools that are part of the Southeast region, it was just a little over 38% compared to the statewide average of 24%. So we are proud of the fact that the center schools outdo the state average, and we have consistently done that. We continue to push and try to improve those numbers as well. So 38%. Our goal is to get to 50% someday. So hopefully we will get there. And then the next page after that is all of the area schools, how many scholarships were given out. And I think they're not all center schools in there. So just a comparison. Next page is SAEs. If you look at the bottom under totals, we have just a little over $1.6 million earned by the students on those SAEs. Very impressive. We had 798 students involved and they earned 1.6 million. If you look at the Oaks numbers, Mr. Spellerberg and Mrs. Kemmer are both working on that. Very impressive numbers.
Is it only the ag programs that do SAUs?
That's what we have here, yeah. And there are
SAU is supervised ag.
agriculture experience.
Do any of the other programs place students out for?
We have the cooperative learning. We have a few that are doing that, not huge numbers, but yeah, we do.
And their earnings are not included in?
No, this is just the SAEs, this is just the ag. The next one's a picture of our new piece of equipment that's going to be coming in. We received a grant through Carl Perkins. We partnered with Harris Equipment, or Harris Machine to get this. Nick and Jay have been great to work with. They're throwing in some in-kind and also some money to make this happen. When I called Nick and told him that we received the grant and we're going to be getting this, I'm not sure he slept for a couple nights. It's his deal. He's really into it. We're going to have a spot dedicated in the shop to it, and we'll actually have some, Haas equipment, signage, and some Harris equipment, or Harris Machine, Harris Machine, and Nick is going to help us with the teaching and the training and all of that stuff. So very excited. It was actually supposed to be here this week, but they pushed it back to next week. This is a very large piece of equipment. What you're looking at is about 10 foot long. And so you can have 10 different tools in there that can change around. I did send out some links to a video. If you have no idea what a CNC machine is, you can watch the video, just kind of get an idea of what they do. But I think most of you are probably familiar with what a CNC mill will do. Once we get it up and running, come on out and check it out. Some other things I want to cover on those links that I had sent out. One of them is a Wazer. It's a water jet cutter, and they actually just were delivered yesterday. The water jet will cut anything from marble, granite, metal, rubber. I mean, it'll cut anything. We're limited on the size that we have. We're planning on rotating it with our high-tech equipment. And so with the table, I think it's 16 inches long by 12. So we're kind of limited on the size of the project we can do, but kids will be able to get the training. Any program that you can draw in and create a DXF file, all you do is save it to an SD card, and we'll punch it in and it'll cut it out. And we're really looking forward to using that. Another one of the videos is the Vex robots. We were really getting into that last spring, getting ready to roll it out, and then COVID hit. So we really haven't done a lot with that yet. But if you watch that Vex video, that one is, we actually have that equipment here and ready to go out to schools. And what I plan, or what I envision with that, is we have a couple schools that are fairly close to each other. So say Oaks gets it and Ellendale gets it. And you build these robots, you compete in your own schools. And then sometime during that rotation, while you have them, you get together with the other school that have them, and have a competition and compete. So that's what I envision happening. So we'll see where that goes. The one we have is a smaller field than the one, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Vex or not. It is just huge down in the southeastern part of the United States. And they'll fill 50,000 seat stadiums with people coming to watch. It's just, to me, it's kind of crazy, but it's the way things are going. And I know NDSCS is looking at hosting in Flickery over there, hosting again. If COVID went to hit last year, they would have them last spring. So that is coming. It's coming to our area. There's a few schools in the area that are heavily involved with it. Grand Forks and Valley City are a couple of them that are really into the Vex robotics and compete at a national level.
Randall, will that be as part of a program, ag, or is it just sort of an
It's a
extracurricular?
rotation, with that Vex, you could have your English teacher doing it if you really wanted.
So that's for the high-tech equipment?
It's for the high-tech equipment. Any teacher can be doing it. It fits more into the tech person or mathematics or any of that kind of stuff. Where it kind of more fit in, but anybody can do it. That's kind of the drawback of it too, is finding somebody in the school that wants to get the training and get going with it and move forward with it. So another video that was in there in the links was the Natamash table. I think I showed you guys that before. We did end up buying a second unit, so I know Mr. Breitbach uses it quite a bit for the old school. So I know he wants to use it again this spring.
So when that comes to Oaks and he uses it, do the students come out here?
Yeah, they come out here. It's transportable, but the less we have to move it, the better, jiggling around computers and electronics. So, but yes, it is able to be transportable. The kids that he's doing it with are older and all have their license, so they can drive over here. They can jump on the bus with Don. What am I missing on those videos? Is that it? I think that might be it on the links. So, other couple things I wanted to talk about that aren't in the book. Want to make sure and thank you guys for helping us out with the window project. plan is to have that completed this summer. Soon as school's out, hopefully they can start working on it and get them put in. But or replace these old windows with ones that actually open and you can get a little fresh air in here. These are all just solid windows. I don't know if there was what they were trying to accomplish by not having windows that open, getting fresh air in the building. Especially back in 1975, probably some new technology at the time. But anyway, I want to make sure and thank you guys for that. Another thing is the school counselor. I don't know if you guys are aware that Mr. Wentworth is working towards his degree to become a counselor, and we have Mrs. Brecker working with him, mentoring him. And I asked her if I could share this, and she said that I could. Her plan is to work one more year as a counselor and then retire after that. And then at that time, it should be a seamless transition to Mr. Wentworth. So I know they've been working together on a lot of different things, and he's been getting a lot of advice. Should be a smoothest transition, hopefully. The other piece I wanted to talk about is scheduling. I know last year we had talked where there were quite a few students that were not able to attend classes out here because of the scheduling of the flex mod, and they'd come up for a couple days a week and then they'd have to try and get caught up on the rest of the week, because most of our classes are 5 days, especially the ones that are tied to our ITV and tied to our other schools. They're all 5 days a week. It is better this year with Mr. Steinoff, got all the teachers together last spring and spent quite a few days on Zoom trying to figure out schedule, and it did help. We don't have the kids that are here a couple days a week and then have a bunch to make up. They're here. They may miss a class or because of a conflict, but it's way better than it was last year. The only problem is still, I think that we do have some kids that are not able to take some classes because of it, but you're going to have that with any schedule, if you do a traditional schedule or not. So just wanted to throw that out, that it is a little better. So, and then at the end of the end here, just some pictures of students in our classes out here. So, is there any questions or anything for me?
I'd just like to thank Randall and Dan for your work. We appreciate you, and Mr. Spellberg as well, and the opportunities that are afforded to our students because of the partnership with the SRCTC. It's interesting, Dan commented that they're at 1,600 enrollment. There was the former assistant director had a chart up on his wall, and I believe the number was to try to double enrollment. At that time, the enrollment was 150 kids that were being served here. And so it's interesting to think about where it's gone to and where it is. And then it's also interesting to think that 17 or 18 years ago, this very board was having a discussion because they were believing that the Career Tech Center may close due to Verona shutting down and that no longer being the third school. And the discussion was to tear down the part of the building which we're in and use the back part of the shops for a bus garage. And thank God that they merged with the Southeast Region Career Tech Center, and that did not happen. And granted, we're stuck with the bus garage we have, Dave. I know this would have been a little bit better, but I think the utilization of the building and the facilities, it's a blessing. So we're fortunate to be part of it, and I'm proud to say that it's been 15 years that I've been around this building, facility, and community. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. There's plenty of food over there, so help yourself. Anybody back there wants food, there's food. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our action items. This first item is the school board election date, and I see all of the dates are crossed off and moved to a week earlier. And I wondered why that was, but I guess typically we're proposing a date of June 8th or June 1st?
June 1st. So normally we move the election up, so the canvassing meeting falls the same week as the regular school board meeting.
That's why.
So yeah, so it would be June 1st, 2021. And the 2 directorships to be filled is the 3-year term from the rural area east of North Dakota Highway 1 held by Sonia Neal. And the other one is a 3-year term from the city of Oaks held by Bill Schmitz. So yep, we just need to set the date for June 1st.
And then, of course, all the other dates here are moving backwards from June 1st are the dates that deadlines associated with the election. So I look for a motion to approve a school board election date of June 1st, 2021. Do we need to set the place and the time?
Nope, that'll be later.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to set our school board election date as June 1st, 2021?
I'll make a motion.
Ryan Rosendahl moves to set the school board election date June 1st, 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Robert Thorpe seconds. Any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the determination of an appropriate negotiating group or unit. There is information in your packet regarding the correspondence we received from the Oaks Education Association related to seeking negotiations for the upcoming, or seeking negotiations for a negotiated agreement. There is in your packet an email that has highlighted a motion, the proper motion and action for us to take at this time, should we want to approve Oaks Education Association as our negotiating unit, or to negotiate with us. So at this time, I would seek the motion that is highlighted in yellow on page 5 of your 116-page packet. Sheila Mayer moves that. I'm sorry.
Can you change your name again?
No, I haven't. Sheila Nagel moves and I'll read the motion and please confirm that you. Yeah. Sheila Nagel moves that the board will approve pursuant to North Dakota Century Code section 15.1-16-10 that the board of the Oak School District recognizes as appropriate negotiating unit all employees licensed to teach by the ESPB or approved to teach by the ESPB and employed primarily as classroom teachers. That is Director Nagel's motion. Is there a second? Schmitz seconds. Is there any discussion? Any questions or discussions to the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. The next steps are the posting of the petitions as outlined in your packet, and we'll have further action on this at the March meeting too. But this is the official beginning of the negotiating process. The next item on the agenda is item C, action item, approval of Catherine Heimbach release of claims. Again, the full, final, and absolute release of all claims was in your packet as we discussed and agreed in principle to at the last board meeting during executive session. The document has been signed as negotiated by the attorney. And I would seek a motion to approve this release of claims, which has been signed. Schmitz moves to approve the full, final, and absolute release of all claims, which has been signed by Catherine Heimbach. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thorpe seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. And as mentioned in our packet, although we deny any liability that the district is responsible for any wrongdoing at all, this is a compromise that allows us, both parties, all parties, to move on and focus on the important work that we're doing. Next on the agenda, we've moved up the LED lighting grant, which is found way down there somewhere in your packet. Okay, I'm finding it in the 70s if you want to follow along or look at it, 69 in that area. Dr. Steinhoff or April, do you want to lead us through this?
The facilities committee met before Christmas and reviewed our planning for facility spending this year. And one of the things we talked about was the possibility of upgrading lighting like they've done in this building. And the group agreed that we're going to try and apply for that grant, and we did, and we got it. And so I'm seeking the approval not only of the acceptance of the grant, which is in the tune of $39.3 thousand, but also the quote from Chad's Electric, which is double that. It's approximately 79.6, I think, somewhere in there. 78.6, somewhere in there. The work will be done prior to June 30th because we need to have this on this fiscal cycle. And so I just ask for approval of that, and we'll work with Chad to get that started. I'm anticipating literally the day after school gets out. One of the things that will change is all of our lights in our facilities will now be LEDs. We will no longer have ballasts in any of the lights, and so the issue of the ballast going out and the lights flickering will not be an issue anymore. We anticipate that there will be fewer bulbs because the LED lights are brighter and produce more lumens, and so we don't need as many bulbs. And we believe that there will be a cost savings on electricity, but also a savings from Dave and his staff having to change ballasts and having to change bulbs as often. So we think this is a win-win, and we're fortunate that we were granted the money to do so.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the Durkheim Electric bid? Is that what? Right.
No, this is Chad's Electric.
How many bids did we receive?
Two.
Just two.
For Chad's Electric? Is that what it is? Yes. Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the bid from Chad's Electric as well as accept the Department of Commerce Energy Conservation Grant? Again, the bid is for $78,628. The grant is half of that, and the district is responsible for the other half. Nago moves to approve the grant and the bid for the electrical improvements. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rosendahl seconds. Is there any discussion? Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. And then we'll move back to school policy review. April and I are diligently trying to make policy review easier and more effective and sensible. We are trying to grind through all of the policy, the comprehensive review, which was given to us last year by last spring by the North Dakota School Boards Association. I appreciate their guidance and their service very much. Today we have in front of us for a first reading, we have 2 board regulations and a policy for which April and I believe that the changes are minor, or they're regulations which don't require a second reading, or the only change on FG is that it's changed from a required to a recommended policy. There's no change in the language. So I seek a motion, unless anybody wants to act differently on any of these 3 items. I seek a motion for approval of the first reading and waiver of the second reading of the 2 board regulations and policy FG. Sheila Nagel moves adopting first reading and waiving the second reading for board regulation FDH, board regulation FFK, and policy FG. Is there a second? Schmidt seconds. Is there any discussion? I'll just note that these policies and regulations relate to foster care student transportation procedure that is required, suspension and expulsion regulations that is also required, and FG is student rights and responsibilities, again, changing from required to recommended. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Okay, so the next 4 policies are FDD, education of pregnant and parenting students. That is a new policy for us, and that is required. FDE is required, and it is education of special education and disabled students. There are some language changes that include section 504, in addition, I believe, to IEP. FDH is students in foster care. That is a required policy that is also new. And FFC, bus conduct, which is recommended. Some changes that add a reference to section 504 students. For those 4 policies, April and I recommend that we adopt a first reading today and carry them over for a second reading. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of those 4 policies?
I'll make a motion.
It's been moved by Rosendahl to approve the first reading of those 4 policies. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Was that Robert?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. With that, one of these, FDD, the education of pregnant and parenting students, includes some language, okay, I'll get back to it, near, at the end, some highlighted language at the end. We should decide whether we want to or not include that language regarding disclosure to the parents of the student. And that's on page 25 of your packet.
Basically just trying to decide if we're up to tell the parents the kids pregnant.
Well,
What
yes.
our policy is on that.
Right, and the previous paragraph says that if a district employee is, if the student discloses to a district employee, the employee must tell the counselor. And the school counselor is to encourage the student to inform the parents. The additional language would require then that the counselor make a decision together with the superintendent. So we can choose to leave that out, or we can choose to leave it in policy.
I believe it. So I would say.
All right, so the consensus of the board is to leave the highlighted language in the policy. Is there any concern from anyone?
I think Mrs. Sells been utilizing this for years. I think you've been utilizing this for years. You've made sure that when you've had students, that you've informed the parents of that.
That's not me.
All right, so we'll leave that language in, and there's a motion and second for first readings of these 4 policies, and we'll revisit them next month. Is there any further discussion? I do have a question regarding policy FFC, bus conduct. I did go on the website yesterday on the transportation section, and I have to say, Dr. Steinhoff and I discussed yesterday that the new website is fairly easy to navigate, and after using it for a little bit, I've found the things that I'm looking for. There are bus guidelines and expectations listed on the website, which I think we came up with a number of years ago when we had some issues on the bus and maybe before we had cameras installed. But I think before next month's second reading, we should kind of crosswalk those to this policy with that document and see that they are in harmony with one another. And that might be considered an exhibit to this policy, I guess. Anyway, are there any other questions regarding these policies? Hearing none then, all those in favor of the first reading of these 4 policies, please say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. There are 7 policies on for second readings. The first one is the DDBE Families First Coronavirus Leave, which, as we discussed last month, needed to be extended to the end of the school year, or we would not be able to utilize the sick leave provision in that policy. I see no reason why we can't adopt the second reading of all of these in a single motion. They were all in your packet. Are there any questions or anything that needs to be highlighted or brought forward regarding these policies?
I'll be honest, on this legal listing, when you read that part where we added that, this policy will be in effect from April 1st, 2020 until the end of the school year. We should put 2021.
Oh.
Otherwise, it's at the end of the school year 2020. That's,
Oh, good point.
Good point.
I read it like 2021, right?
Yes, it's 2021. Good catch.
All right. These policies relate to coronavirus leave, video surveillance and reporting, recruiting and hiring teachers, classified staff intent to rehire, definition of work week and overtime and compensatory time, teacher grievance procedure, and contracted staff resignations and requests for release from contract. My question on that last one, DKBB, it refers to liquidated damages exhibit, and I think one other exhibit for regulation, I can't remember. It does ask us, it does say that the board will adopt regulations related to this one in exhibit.
And we currently don't have regulations for liquidated damages, but I'm aware of a number of schools that have them. So I'd be able to provide you with multiple examples, including the Southeast Region Career Technology Center's example that you'd be able to utilize and adopt at a later time. And what that would simply mean that if a certified employee that is under contract leaves before the end of their contract, then you would have damages in order to allow them to, but we've not had that previously.
Liquidated damage amounts shall be placed in board approved regulations, so that suggests that we will need to adopt that in the future. And I would suggest we should do so before contract signing and for the upcoming school year. So we should get this done in the next couple of meetings. All right. Is there then a motion to approve those 7 policies as a second reading and final adoption? Okay, NACO moves to approve those 7 as second readings with the correction to DDBE specifying the school year of 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Schmidt seconds. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Finally, as existing policy review, I placed policies ACE, which is violent and threatening behavior, and ACEA, bullying policy, in the board packet for our review, just to bring your attention to them, because a parent recently came to me with concerns about the content of these or the administration of these policies after an incident at school. And although no formal complaint has been filed against the district or any personnel, I did ask Superintendent Steinhoff to review these policies with growth and continuous improvement in mind, including but not limited to the notification of and sharing information with law enforcement. He has assured me that there has already been substantial communication and collaboration between our administration and law enforcement personnel, and I will continue to follow up on this. And it's possible we'll need to consider some amendments to these or other related policies, or perhaps the addition of a regulation in the future, or we may determine that we do not and that what we have is sufficient. But we will continue to work on that, and if you have input, please share that with Dr. Steinhoff. The next items on the agenda are our staff reports. Activities director. Oh, that was in our packet, and I believe Mr. Hack has joined us if there are any questions, right?
He is on here. I should be able to. Okay. Brennan, can you unmute and see if that works?
Yep, I'm unmuted.
That's scary.
An echo with yours unmuted, pretty bad though.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Hack? The plan or his report is in our packet. There are links to the speech and music restart plans. Pep band has resumed. Junior high basketball season is boys is continuing. Girls has concluded. Archery has begun with a flurry. It sounds like lots of kids. Meets to be held virtually rather than in person. State wrestling is coming up. They had a bit of an abbreviated season, unfortunately. Boys and girls basketball are underway and evident so far, able to have complete, although a little bit altered seasons. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Anything to add, Mr. Hack?
Nope, I think you covered pretty much all the main points.
Okay, all covered. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the principal's reports. And those two were in our packets. Engagement survey, archery, spring teachers conferences, and the TLA. Anything you want to highlight, Mrs. Stowe?
I was just number 7, that we have 37 children that are eligible to attend kindergarten. Right now, I'm expecting 35, but the past holds true. That usually explodes for us as it gets closer to school, because we've been asking people for how long to, please let us know if you have somebody this age, and then all of a sudden the week before kindergarten, we like, oh yeah, we have somebody this age. Our child is 5. Yeah. So that kindergarten number could very easily go 40 or over if the past holds true. So that, just to let you guys know kind of where we're at right now. I don't know if you want a COVID update, but the very first day back from Christmas vacation, I lost 3 kids right away at breakfast. So they were out of the building probably by about 9 o'clock. But other than that, in the elementary, we have had no positives. We've had no close contacts from school since Christmas, or that very first day after Christmas. So I don't know if this is like sitting at the bingo table and you don't talk about how many things you have left, but it's been going really well. I know we're gonna have to close contact if somebody does get sick, because we were just talking yesterday at lunch. We kind of went back with our kids, on their regular seating positions at lunch, and the kids are talking and they're laughing and they're getting to be with their friends, and the behaviors that before it was like we're having some issues, and it's just, yeah, it's like they're getting to be back with their friends. So it's nice, but like I said, I know that we're gonna have to close contact if somebody gets sick, because we're, I'd say probably about, I counted the other day at lunch, out of 40 kids in one grade, 10 of them were wearing masks. then they mask right back up, because that's just what they're choosing to do, which is great, and they chose to sit by each other, I didn't make them. But every day that just is less and less for the number of kids that are wearing masks back up. Yesterday, I went in one room and I don't even know if those kids were wearing masks back up, so not forcing them to wear their masks, and they're choosing, some are choosing to, some are choosing not to, so.
Are some classrooms requiring those masks?
We have told them that they cannot require them to wear masks. We told them that they cannot require them to wear masks. So in fact, I think Mr. Stein has had some conversations, and I've had some conversations with some of those teachers, so.
And it's working. Have you heard anything about spelling?
We are not doing a spelling bee this year, and we are not doing a geography bee because there is no geography bee, so, and the spelling bee, we are not doing this. We just didn't know, with where we were
I was
gonna
just
be.
curious, because I know they did a math class.
Yeah, they are gonna do math Olympics too, because we've got something on that, so our sixth graders are gonna go to that, so.
And the TLA,
Oh,
you're gonna talk.
I didn't want to rain on his parade or
Okay, fine.
step on his toes. I'll let him know that.
All right, any other questions for Mrs. Sell? If not, let's move on to Mr. Beta.
A lot going on in this report. You guys have it. But students in the month of January, we had high school Samantha Hermes and Andrew Hill, and the junior high Jocelyn Font and Christopher Tice. So congratulations to those 4 students. And I have a bunch of attachments that we can take a look at. Our starter testing for our winter benchmark is complete. And those are 2 documents that I gave you. The one is just says winter at the top. It looks like that. That just shows you the proficiency of our students in math and reading. But then the next document I gave you compared it to the fall. Yeah, that's on here looking like.
That's the next, no, the other one compares it to the fall.
Yep,
Okay.
because that one has 2 numbers side by side. And so the black would be what % of our kids came in at that proficiency. And then the blue shows where they're at now in the winter. And then the very bottom of that document says growth. That's the % of our students that have made a year's worth of growth in the several tests they've taken since last year to this year. So it's just a comparison. We can look, see how much our kids are growing, and if there's concerns, we can pinpoint where that might need to be looked at here as we go to the tail end of winter and get into the spring where we have our state testing and all that before we get into the year. So quite honestly, I'm happy with where the kids are for missing a whole quarter of school. It's better than I thought. It's not as great as I wanted to be by any means. But it's interesting to look at in comparison to where they were in the fall. We're not too far off from there. And then the next couple documents I attached for you, one was the Wellington Engagement Index. Now it looks like this guy. Did we talk about what that was last month? Not really. So really what kids had to do is they were given a coordinate plane and axis, and then they had to decide on their class if they love it or if they hate it, and then if they feel challenged or if they don't feel challenged, and they'll put a single dot for each class. So if they like the class and it's challenging, we'll call that engaged. If they don't like the class, but they're challenged, we call that a grind. If they like the class, and it's not challenging, it's entertaining. If they don't like the class and it's boring, then they call it bored or it's not challenging. And so as a whole, 7 to 12, you can see that our average is in the engaged category, which is fantastic. And it has a breakdown of each of those categories on the right in grade levels. So this information then was broken down by teacher and given to the teacher for each of their individual classes as a whole, I should say. And they can kind of look and evaluate where those are. I'm happy to point out if you were to add up the engaged and the grind, that's well over, 60-something% of our kids are being challenged. They're feeling the courses they are taking are challenging. You might ask, well, where are we finding the entertained or the bored? This goes through all of our classes at Oaks High School. So that's, choir, band, that's FIAD, weight training. It's every single class that we offer there at Oaks High School, and they're all kids. So we were pretty impressed with this, and we'll have another one coming up toward the end of March, and then another go around at the end of May. The real nice thing is it takes like literally 2 or 3 minutes for the kids to take. It's just a single dot for each class, and it's instantaneously computed. So missing anything on that, Mrs. Sell?
4 through 6 did too. I'll send it to Craig and he can send you the 4 through 6 data too.
So what's represented on this exhibit is an average of all 7 through 12 students.
Yes.
So each green dot represents one student, an accumulation of their rating of every class that they're in.
Right.
And would that include classes that are here at the center or only classes?
Only classes that are here, yes.
Interesting.
It's
Really
very
handy
interesting.
tool, really handy tool. It's so quick and it's immediate feedback to look and see where we're at. So like, we had a lot of discussion with staff and like, what do you think these results mean? And they're like, well, I guess if a kid doesn't really love the class, but they're feeling challenged, I feel like I'm doing my job. And I said, I would agree, because not every kid is gonna love every single class that you take. And most of those kids that don't like it, you said, well, what don't you like about it? Well, it'd be nice if we didn't have this test or this quiz or this reading or this essay. Well, then you're lowering your bar. And then they might say they like it because it's easier, less than or interesting. So it was a really interesting set of data. So I'm glad we did it.
So as you're going forward and using this data, do you know when you get the data, like which student, do you know which student was way down here?
I can find that out.
Yeah,
Mrs. Sal, I can find that out.
I don't want to know. Don't
No, we
know.
would tell you, that. But we're not gonna give that to the staff either. We're not gonna have that signaled out because the students who take this, we're told that it is anonymous.
Mhm.
But as far as the data on our side, yeah, we could drill down to every kid, or we could drill down to teachers and where they are. I would also add this also special ed. This is every single class at OHS, so.
And so if you identified a particular student who was in the lower left quadrant virtually all the time, would you ask yourself or figure out how can we move that student, whether it's a more CTE classes or more individual attention or distance at something, moving them to something where they're more engaged and more challenged?
Yeah, I think that's the goal here. You know, this is the initial go around, so there were some glitches and stuff like that. But you know, overall, we're starting by looking at the trends of the class before we go all the way down and build the individual. And we'll know more when we go to March and see if we're in the same or if we're moving up, if we're moving back to see where we are. But those are the conversations we hope to have with kids, saying, okay, well, where are we at? And maybe it's not so much having the kids like it, but maybe the class choices they have right now, like, so for instance, freshmen, they only got like a couple choices for electives. So they're not going to be as open as sophomore, juniors, and seniors to pick what they want to take. So those are conversations we have to have moving forward. So absolutely.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Beta? I see you also included a report of the high school credits earned and total and college credits earned, which I appreciate because I had, that could be our student achievement topic for this month that I didn't specifically ask you to do, but there it is. So thank you. So our average high school credits over the last, what is that, 8 years, 9 years? We require 24 and students are earning, looks like mostly 27, rarely less than 26. And we have students earning college credits from nearly 4 to 9 credits on the average. And is that the average college credits per student, would that be divided by the total senior class or only those that earned credits?
Goes period to this for seniors.
Okay. So some students perhaps earn no college
As a whole, so like once they're seniors, how many of those kids have it? Because some will take it as their sophomore,
Sure.
some take it as a junior.
How many of the seniors, how many, of the
What
graduating
credits do they
class,
have?
how many college credits? And some would have 0 and some might have 20 or more.
Correct.
That would represent a pretty nice savings in college tuition if a student earns a semester or more of college credits while they're in high school. But yes, they have to pay some tuition and fees as high school students earning dual credit or college credit. But it's less costly than on campus. And then it's my understanding that all of these credits would be dual credit classes. And that this year, I believe, for the first time, we're offering an advanced placement
in calculus, maybe there are others, I know that there's calculus, which is a little different in that they only earn college credit for it if they pass the test or earn the qualifying grade.
Right, so that will depend on where they want to go to college and what the cutoff score for that college is to acquire that credit. So one college might say a 3 will count for 3 credits, and another one might say 4 counts for 3. So it depends on the university, but it does depend on how they score that final. There's no cost for those credits.
And that is taught by, or that particular class is taught by an OHS teacher, where most or all of the dual credit classes are taught by
IPB or online.
taught by college professors.
Correct.
And as long as we have our CTE people in the room, and do we have opportunities here at our campus for students to earn college credits in any of the career tech ed programs? I know there's an effort to move in that direction, but I'm not sure we're there yet in this. On our
We
campus.
do in auto tech. We've made no headway in the ag area. We've tried to work with NDSCS on that, but we have not had any success there. In health, we have several options where kids can do dual credit in that area. Those are all through NDSCS.
Any other questions? Anything else, Mr. Beta?
No, today we're doing our state student engagement survey, so that's required by the state. I think we found out our kids are getting to the breaking point of getting survey fatigue, so we gotta be cognizant of how much they're being assessed and how much we're asking about opinion, because you get to the point where you throw your hands in the air and become pretty tired of surveys, so that'll happen today, and math counts was done, we'll see how the results did there. ACT coming up, and then on Wednesday 24th, the freshmen will come out here to the center and get a chance to tour the facility and all the classes that we discussed this morning, so it'll be a good day for freshmen.
All right, thank you.
Great.
I have two 212 shout outs. First one, huge shout out to Carrie and Maureen for being so great. They're caring, understanding, supportive, and they genuinely care about the well-being of the students. Mental health isn't an easy topic to talk about, but the support and understanding of the two of these ladies has made it much more bearable. Thank you both for doing all you can to make a difficult time easier for not only your students, but their families also. Side note, COVID should become a swear word when the nightmare is over. Thanks again. I appreciate you both. And I would comment that we've had 2 back-to-back. This one is similar to one we had last month, but this one actually came in after the board meeting. So shout out to Carrie and Maureen, two months in a row or multiple times within the last 2 months. The next one is, thank you, Mrs. Beta, for providing high-level education to our students. You are not just an educator, but a role model to all. In addition to your role as a teacher, you also take time to help kids form healthy social relationships, which becomes more challenging every year due to social stress on kids. Thanks for your open communication and forward thinking. We are lucky to have one of the best in Oaks. So congratulations to Carrie, Maureen, and Mrs. Beta. The next item is the TLA, and Anna was gracious enough to not step on my toes, as she said. The TLA started on January 13th. There are 9 participants from Oaks and 4 from Allendale, and they are meeting every Wednesday and doing so via Zoom. And then my last piece, because we moved the LED lighting grant to action items, and you took care of that already, is the logo refresh. In the packet, you saw examples. We purchased professional renderings of a new tornado and language, and I was in there. I asked Sonia her opinion on how we should go about determining the logo and what we should do, and she had a great idea. She said, I think we should start a task force and address the new logo idea, as well as addressing enhancing the environments for activities. And so when Sonia brought that idea to me, I'm going to start a task force and I automatically put her on there, but if you're interested in being part of that task force, let me know. Mr. Hack will be on it. We're gonna obviously have coaches on it. Team Makers is gonna be part of it. And so we'll bring ideas back, not only for the logo, but how we can refresh logoing throughout the school, including in our gyms and football field, track and field complex, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in being part of that task force, let me know. And hopefully we'll be able to pick one of those new logos here soon. And we do have availability from the company that did that. They said that we can intertwine different components of each one of those logos. So that's an option too. And that concludes my report.
I'd like to see some students involved in the task force. And I can see maybe kids that are in the marketing, sports marketing class being involved.
Good idea.
I see discussion of, more uniform signage in our gyms. The visitors don't know where to sit and, and as I travel to other schools and arenas, venues, I try to notice, what are they doing here that looks good or doesn't look good? And think about what are our philosophies about, signage? Should we be celebrating individual accomplishments, or is it a team sport? So we celebrate just a team, and maybe individual accomplishments are more, they're noted, but they're not such big signage. But those are all conversations I think can take place and really enhance our, just the environment in our gyms and for all activities, not just sports. Mr. Vega.
You guys are good, then I'll turn that over to Virginia, and let her have the high school arts, and send me to art, do some demo drawings, something to get you to see what they come up with.
Very good. All right. With that, any other questions for our superintendent? Are there any committee reports?
There are none.
Is there any staffing update?
We're fully staffed.
All right. What are we going to do for the next half hour? All right, then let's move on to the minutes. There are minutes in the packet for 1 regular and 2 special meetings. Yep. Were there any additions or corrections needed, or is there a motion to approve those minutes as they appeared in your packet? Schmitz moves to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thorpe seconds. So we are approving minutes of the special on January 8th, regular on January 12th, special on January 18th. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Next, we'll look at the reconciliation, balance sheet, and revenue and expense reports, which were in your packet. Is there a motion to approve those 3 reports? Or any questions? You can ask a question after we have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Good. Rosendahl moves to approve the reconciliation report, the balance sheet, and the revenue and expense report. Is there a second? Nagel seconds. Is there any discussion or questions? Anything you want to highlight, April?
Nope, I put some of my notes along the sides there of the reports to kind of explain why things are over or under.
I noticed that there's a large red number on the sales of computers, which you noted, but it's a red income number, so we're grossly over budget in revenue, which is a good thing. Took me a couple minutes.
For the technology department, yeah. And I think Larry wants to kind of put that money aside to offset future purchases, so.
Okay. Any other questions or things of note that you want to highlight? Anyone?
The only other piece that I would note is the second round of CARES funding has already come from the federal government and it's sitting in DPI's coffers, and the legislature is determining how that money is going to be funded back to us. The Oaks Public Schools allotment is approximately $311,000. of the CARES funding too. In addition to that, President Biden is pushing a new initiative for opening and maintaining safe schools. And that is to the tune of approximately $170 billion. So I anticipate that not only will the 311,000 come to us some way, shape, or form, but there will be another round that will be even more than that in my humble estimation. I don't
That
know
one will probably
when
have some
or
strings
if.
attached.
What's that?
That one will have strings attached.
We had a presentation by the National School Board Association, I believe, was he the executive director? He made it, that question came up, is it gonna be very specific on the strings, you know, is it gonna be only for the schools that are closed now or doing remote learning only? And he made it sound like there aren't going to be a lot of strings attached to it, that it was, but he said that he thinks that there will be a push to improve, the term was homework gap. So what they're concerned about is the loss of learning that's happening across this nation from the pandemic and how we'll be addressing that, that homework gap, so to speak. So I think the strings may be attached to that, but it sounded as though it's not gonna be too difficult to maintain, but I guess there's always good and bad. When you get money, it's good, but when you get a lot of money, it's bad because everyone's got an idea and, you know, we're gonna pick a few ideas and what we're gonna do with it, but anyway, I anticipate more revenue coming our way in the future.
All right. Let's see, we've got the motion on the floor, right? Okay, anything else?
April, what did you ever find out with the social security on the?
So someone actually, one of the business managers actually called IRS, and they had said that, yes, we could get a credit, but then eventually we would end up having to pay it back as a public entity. So for now, we would receive our credit on the social security,
It's weird, because that's.
but moving forward. Well, and that's when we had the two discussions between business managers, and then a lot of, I think there was only one school who actually went forward with it. It was a bigger school because it was a bigger credit to them for the payroll taxes. But yeah, that was the way it sounded, is that the IRS had told them that, yes, you can take the credit now, but you would eventually have to end up paying it back.
I don't remember that discussion. Maybe that was a
discussion.
a comment.
Deal.
All right. Anything else? If not, the motion is to approve the reconciliation, balance sheet, and revenue and expense reports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. The next item is the approval of bills. There were bills in your packet, which we need to approve, and I believe April sent out a few more last night or yesterday afternoon, which I didn't look at yet. And I may not. Anything on any of those that anyone questioned or you would like to highlight? Wouldn't love to highlight. I'll trust everyone else. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I would make the motion to approve the bills.
Nagel moves to approve the bills. Is there a second? Schmidt seconds. Is there any discussion? Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries and the bills are approved for payment. Finally, our next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 9th at 7 a.m. Just a reminder that March is the state required second evaluation of our superintendent, and I will send out a reminder in the next few days with the attachments that I usually send to you. Next meeting would be Tuesday, April the 13th. Is there anything else we need to highlight for the good of the order?
We have a visitor here.
Yes.
We're not just asking, if they have anything you'd like to say?
I discussed with him that I would put the policies in question on the agenda and that we would follow up on them.
What do you want us to look at these policies? We have 2 policies there, obviously know something's going on. What should we be looking for? Just read the policies.
What I have asked Dr. Steinhoff to do is review those policies primarily, not in every respect with regard to the incident that is in question, both with regard to the content of the policies and the administration of the policies, and how if there are any deficiencies in the policies, or if there are deficiencies in how the policies were administered.
Would you want to mention anything about your conversations with law enforcement?
Sure. We're collaborating with Chief of Police O'Brien. He is working with our state's attorney, Kim Rodelacker, and will be providing training to us as admin, and specifically providing training on sharing of information between the school and law enforcement regarding how we can do that, or if we can't do that, specifically with FERPA, the federal law that protects students' information, so to speak, but also in determining from law enforcement their opinion and view of when the school should be including law enforcement when there's issues that happen at school. And so Matt is lining that up with Kim, and we'll be doing training. It'll be Anna and Brandon and I and Matt, and then Kim on that, so that we have a better understanding from their perspective, and we'll talk about from our perspective, on when we involve law enforcement. Our policies have different language in them about when and how, law enforcement is called. So.
And that's one thing I looked at those policies, obviously they're in there. There's the violence policy and bullying, which half a dozen, 1/6 of the other. I did notice that when there isn't an incident where a child, it's a violent incident, I think that's a smart time to probably bring one in. Unfortunately, I dealt with this 8 years ago too. So we do need to get to the bottom of that. Because I'm sure you get it, it's hard. So appreciate that. We need to look into that.
Yes, we're looking for, are our policies in compliance with law and regulations? And I believe there are times when those laws and regulations conflict with one another. And we don't know which would prevail.
Well, that's where I think having the state's attorney involved as a board, we have our opinions. We have to do the legal rights. But again, there's a standard I think we need to do as a school board for our children. When there's a violent act, which is beyond just a normal fight, that I would like to see, we're going to stand up and say, no, I'm not. So obviously getting the state's attorney involved will definitely set that standard, because it's a tough situation.
Yes, thank you. Anything else?
Do we want to possibly consider a special meeting? I've gotten a lot of requests regarding the restart plan on open gym, on, what else? Open gym,
Easter egg hunt.
Easter egg hunt, which is typically a backup, where they can use the south gym for the Easter egg hunt if the weather's not conducive. We've had requests from the Army on doing activities with our students, and we've denied those requests as of now because of our restart plan. Just a consideration of whether you want to bring that to the March meeting or have a special meeting in between, just to throw that. Or we just continue as is, and that's fine.
Well, and we do have the negotiating process in process now, and it may be that at some point we want to have an executive session to discuss negotiating strategy. And prior to that, I think we would want to see a good draft of the budget, which may be ready. It could be just disseminated to board members in advance, not necessarily to be thoroughly discussed at that meeting, but
It's possible we don't want to go a whole month without a special board meeting, do we? Well, just be on the alert that there are some
topics, and I like getting done by, 8:20. I like this rather than having, and she was going like this, so I think she wants to go. Be on the alert for a possible special meeting. Thank you, board members. And I'm sure that we're welcome to stay for a tour or visits to classrooms or facilities. With that, I will declare the meeting adjourned at 8:21 a.m. Thank you, everyone.